Even the own Trump-appointed federal judge overseeing this case has said that he had a strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful due process.
This may look like a routine oversight exchange, but it's actually a stress test of constitutional limits under federal enforcement power. What's really being tested here is whether citizenship still guarantees legal protection when bureaucratic speed collides with individual rights. This raises broader questions about how much discretion agencies should have when families and legal status are on the line. In this video, we'll break down how a single enforcement decision exposes deeper risks to due process, executive authority, and the rule of law.
Sent to introduce the article from PBS NewsHour entitled "Children Who Are U.S. Citizens Deported Along with Foreign-Born Mothers," in which the attorney for that 4-year-old U.S. citizen says that at no time did his mother consent to the child U.S. citizen being removed from the country.
Without objection, so ordered, and I recognize Mr. Correa for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. First of all, Secretary Noem, welcome to this committee. Had the honor of hearing testimony from Secretary Kelly, Secretary Mayorkas, and of course you. Welcome. We all have the same interests, which are protecting Americans, American taxpayers, as we move forward in our jobs. And I want to say that your testimony, my colleague from Louisiana, and myself have the same interests, which are to protect Americans, especially to protect children, especially to protect American citizen children. That's where my concern is, Madam Secretary, that your administration, I believe, has consistently violated the law by denying due process to U.S.-born American children. Under your watch, you've deported American children, U.S.-born children. Some of the examples, I only have 5 minutes to talk about, but I'll come back to the case that was described or discussed a little while ago, which was 2 American children, 4 and 7, were put on a plane with their mother, sent to Honduras within 24 hours of being detained. There was an attorney involved. And we're debating right now the issue, as if you stated, that the mother wanted the child to go with her, but there was an attorney involved. That person was not consulted. That family was denied the opportunity to talk to that attorney. The attorney was there. What is wrong with asking the attorney? You've got a family that had been checking in, following ICE direction. Check in, bring your family to check in. They weren't let out. That happens in my district all the time. Families check in ICE. If ICE determines they should be deported, do you know what we do? I call ICE and I say, give them 30 days. Some of these families have been in this country 20, 30 years. Give them 30 days to get their situation in order. Make sure that they figure out how to keep their American children in the U.S. Give them the opportunity to make an educated decision on the lives of American citizens. In this case and other cases, ma'am, you have split-second decisions to make a decision on those children. And you, Madam Secretary, also make split-second decisions based on whatever coerced discussion you're having with that mother. And I say coerced because when you're scared to death, your life is about to change, and you've got an attorney next door that you will not permit that family to consult with that attorney, you got an issue. Case number 2, 2-year-old American daughter, also deported to Honduras. They were also denied access to their lawyers. According to her lawyer, ICE prevented the mother from speaking to the lawyer or anyone else in the family. 2-year-old American citizen. Can't we slow it down and just take a moment before they're deported in 24 hours? The mom didn't want the daughter to stay in the United States. They may have had relatives in the United States, family. Even the own Trump-appointed federal judge overseeing this case has said that he had a strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful due process. Madam Secretary, I think we're all in agreement here. Let's go after MS-13. Let's go after drug dealers. Let's go after Tren de Grúa, the bad folks who hurt my community as well as everybody else's community. But I fail to see where a child, 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 7-year-old children could be on your top of priorities for deportations. This is still America. Due process, the Fifth Amendment. Madam Secretary, I know ICE agents. I deal with them all the time. I've toured the southern border, blue uniforms, green uniforms, talking to them about what they need to do the job. More than happy to have that discussion with you, publicly or privately, but deporting US-born children, ignoring their attorneys, take a deep breath. You've been here 20, 30 years. A lot of the times back home, when I ask the ICE agents, give them 30 days, you know what? Without fail, that person comes back or self-deports. We can do better. Madam Secretary, I'm going to ask you one last question in 9 seconds. You're under oath. Have you fired, retired, dismissed any DSA agents that have not followed your policies?
What kind of agents, sir?
DHS,
DHS
Homeland Security agents. Yes.
Specific law enforcement officers?
Yes, ma'am. Officers under your watch.
I haven't given any specific orders to any law enforcement officers under the Department of Homeland Security. So there are, within the Department of Homeland Security, 280,000 employees. 47,000 of them are Coast Guard individuals. So, 230,000 individuals are employees, and we're very proud of the work that they do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for recognizing that it's Police Week. We have many agencies that have law enforcement officers in them that get up every single day to serve their communities and to make sure that our laws matter and that they're enforced appropriately and that no one is treated differently than someone else.
Gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize Mr. Guest from Mississippi.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter for the record the Prince George's County Police Department Gangfield interview.
In that charged moment inside the hearing room, as Representative Lou Correa pressed forward with a steady, urgent voice, the weight of the question hung in the air. He wasn't talking about policy in the abstract. He was talking about real people, real families, and real moments that can never be undone. He described a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old placed on a plane within hours, taken away from the only country they had ever known. He described a 2-year-old whose lawyer was just steps away, yet never allowed into the room. And he reminded the secretary that even a federal judge had raised serious doubts about whether meaningful due process had been given. For a few seconds, the committee room stopped feeling like a place of procedure and started feeling like a courtroom for conscience. What unfolded there was more than a dispute over enforcement. It was a collision between power and principle. Correa was not arguing that the nation should abandon its laws. He was arguing that the nation must live up to them. He spoke of the Fifth Amendment, of due process, of the idea that citizenship carries with it a promise of protection and dignity. And when he said, "This is still America," he was not making a slogan. He was making a plea for the country to recognize itself. Secretary Kristi Noem's response was careful, measured, and bureaucratic. She spoke of thousands of employees, of agencies and structures, of pride in those who serve. But in the face of Correa's examples, those words sounded distant, almost weightless. Because behind every statistic he mentioned stood a small life, one that could not speak for itself inside that room. That contrast is what made the moment so powerful. On one side, the machinery of government. On the other, the fragile reality of families caught inside it. This is the tension that has always lived at the heart of American governance. We are a nation built on laws, but also on the belief that those laws must serve justice. When enforcement becomes faster than reflection, when decisions are made in hours that will shape entire lifetimes, the moral stakes become enormous. Correa described families who had followed the rules, who had checked in when told to do so, who had tried to navigate a system that often feels impossible to understand. And yet, in those moments, they were denied even the simple courtesy of speaking to their own legal counsel. That is not a technical error. That is a question about who we are. The judge mentioned by Correa did not accuse the government of acting with cruelty. He expressed a strong suspicion that due process had not been meaningfully applied. In the language of the law, that is a grave statement. It suggests that the safeguards meant to protect the most vulnerable were, at the very least, bypassed. And when due process is weakened for anyone, it is weakened for everyone. That is why these hearings matter. They are not about one family or one case. They are about whether the system still honors the principles it claims to uphold. Correa made it clear that no one in that room was defending those who harm communities. He spoke of those who commit serious crimes and said plainly that enforcement should focus there. But then he asked the question that cut to the core of the issue. Why would a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, or a 7-year-old ever be at the top of any enforcement priority? In that simple contrast, he exposed a profound moral imbalance. A system that cannot distinguish between danger and innocence risks losing its legitimacy. Secretary Noem spoke of fairness, of equal treatment, of laws being enforced appropriately. Those are noble goals. But fairness is not just about treating everyone the same. It is about recognizing different circumstances and responding with humanity as well as authority. When families are rushed through life-altering decisions without access to legal guidance, fairness becomes an empty word. This hearing, like so many before it, revealed how easily the language of administration can drift away from the reality of human lives. In Washington, policies are written in pages and paragraphs. In communities, those policies are felt in heartbeats and tears. When Correa asked why attorneys were not consulted, he was not just asking about procedure. He was asking why the system chose speed over care, efficiency over empathy. And that is where the deeper meaning of this moment lies. The United States has always wrestled with how to balance security and compassion. But the promise of citizenship has always been clear. It means something. It means that even when the government exercises its power, it must do so with respect for rights that cannot be brushed aside. A child who holds American citizenship carries that promise, no matter the circumstances of their family. As the gavel fell and time expired, the questions did not disappear. They lingered, heavy and unresolved. They remind us that democracy is not maintained by silence, but by scrutiny. It is not protected by blind trust, but by the willingness of elected representatives to confront authority when something feels wrong. What we witnessed in that exchange was not just a clash of viewpoints. It was a test of whether the ideals written into the Constitution still guide the actions of those who enforce its laws. Correa stood in that room as a voice for people who could not be there. He used his minutes to demand that the system slow down, breathe, and remember the lives behind its decisions. In the end, this is what accountability looks like. It is uncomfortable. It is messy, and it is necessary, because without it, power drifts away from the people it is meant to serve. The story of those children is not just a headline. It is a reminder that the true measure of a nation is how it treats those with the least power. And in moments like this, when a single question can illuminate a hidden injustice, the role of an informed public becomes essential. If you believe that government should answer to the people, if you believe that the law should be guided by conscience as well as by code, then stay engaged, stay informed, and support the work that brings these moments into the light. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA.